So let's listen to
Right.
Jack Ma. Let's listen to what he says.
And we just want to control the IP. We just want to have technology.
So he's saying that's what the United States said. We just want to control the technology and the IP.
When they say IP is short for intellectual property. Now, this is quite a curious statement because it's very well known, even in the mainstream, that intellectual property is something that China is often stealing. And China is actually not the only culprit of this. In fact, I lived in South Korea for a few years, and in South Korea, they bootleg various technologies that we have, whether it's Google technologies, it's Apple technologies, which there was a case for this, lawsuit from the Apple Corporation. They have technologies like Kakao, Naver, etc., which are complete clones of American technologies. And what's more, they basically block our corporations from going into their markets. And I shouldn't say our, I don't have a stake in those corporations, except that I do have a little bit of stock currently in Meta. But the fact of the, not Google yet, but the fact of the matter is that they're not playing fair. But you have to wonder, well, why is it that our political class allowed them to not play fair? Because while they block our corporations from going into their markets and making money, they flood our markets with their automobiles. Furthermore, they do host our military. So, and as I said, I've seen it firsthand because I lived in South Korea. So if we can have American troops there, why can't we have American business there with a greater presence, especially in the critical areas, namely technology? So our political class has sold us out at a significant level. When I say us, I'm talking about the taxpayer. When I say us, I'm talking about the American middle class. You see, we've gotten beyond race in that the folks who run our government, be them white, Jewish, or otherwise, they don't even care about this thing called white. It used to be white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant meant something. You might screw over the Negroes or the coloreds of some sort, but you'd protect your own. Now, whites don't even help whites. Now the police will beat you in the head, whether you're white, black, blue, purple, or otherwise, because they are merely agents of a corrupt government that is vicious and violent. And that is why you pay taxes, not because you believe or because you're getting benefits like, I don't know, say the people in Oman or the people in Qatar. You're paying because you are being forced. It's a mafia that you're a victim of. And the police, which are a part of a police state, are little more than a gang. But this fellow is mischaracterizing, and he has Jack Ma on here, who is obviously at some level an agent of the Chinese Communist Party. And if he was not supported by the Chinese Communist Party, his company could not have grown as big as it has. He's been at odds with them from time to time, but bro knows how to behave, lest he would like to disappear as though he's a magician. So Jack Ma is certainly, as a Chinese person, whether he has nationalism aligned with that nation state and the Chinese Communist Party, or merely pride in his race and heritage, he is not going to betray them for us. So when we listen to him, we know that we are listening to an agent of China, full stop. Now, this fellow who's speaking right here, he may have some disagreements with the American government, what have you, but it's not quite right to mischaracterize things in this way. I don't think he's an unintelligent man. I think he's a very intelligent man, well-informed, but there are certain types of lies that are dangerous. And frankly, I think that he's lying here. I don't think he's not smart enough to understand.
On the brand, leave the lower end jobs for the world. Great strategy. Past 30 years, IBM.
So that's not a great strategy, actually. That's a terrible strategy. And I've mentioned this previously, that the reason that the United States was so effective in World War II was because, of course, our economy, but more so our capacity. We were taking a very productive consumer base, a base for producing consumer products, and then we turned that into a base for producing the implements of war, weapons, spare parts, munitions. And as a result, we were able to be a major factor in World War II. Now, frankly, the history is portrayed in the most skewed fashion. One thing you really have to give to the Westerners, the Europeans, is they're the most extraordinary and effective liars and marketers to ever walk God's green earth. And as much as when you look at Germany, by land size, by population, I mean, really, they should not have been scary to us, right? They should not have been scary, but our propaganda really portrayed them as a real, just terrifying foe. Now, it is worth noting that the Germans are advanced Europeans as far as Europeans go, right? They were a bit of late bloomers in as much as they did not expand an empire to the length that the Spanish or the French did. They collected a couple colonies in random places like Namibia, but they were a bit late in terms of blooming in the European sense of colonizing innocent peoples around the world. However, they were advanced. When you look at great composers, classical musicians, philosophers, you have Hegel, Engels, Marx. You look at people on that level, many of them are Germans. You look at advanced physics, mathematicians, and anthropology and genetics. The Germans were remarkable in those regards. And so as a result, they were formidable. And that is precisely why they did have, at some level, an effective military strategy and strong weapons to back it. But they lost because of their productive capacity, really could not match what America could muster. And then in league with the United Kingdom, which was an ailing empire, and then, of course, the Russians, which have been quite impressive. And in my travels throughout Europe and the world, I find that the footprint of the Soviet Union, still remains. It is very impressive what they were able to achieve, and the pity that they fell apart. But that's what happens when you have a guy like Gorbachev coming to lead your country. But also, one of the things I observed, and even the Americans commented on this, when the Soviet Union was in its final throes, it was largely due to lying and deceit. They would lie about their numbers, meaning their GDP growth, their per capita income, starvation occurring in the rural areas. They would lie, they would misreport. And because they were misreporting things internally, they didn't have an accurate reflection of where they stood as a nation, as a productive force, as an economy. And that's when things start to go left. America is starting to lie to itself. And we see this among our political commentators. We hear one source says America has the biggest economy in the world. We hear another source say China has the biggest economy in the world. And you can't trust either one. Precisely why I come on here to do these talks, to try to pull away some of the lies such that we might understand. Shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Justino, the very first person coming on supporting the work, came in via PayPal. I appreciate you. And that was before it even started. So that's real. He already knew it was going to be high quality information. And I don't ever show up without being well researched. You don't hear me take out time and say, I think. No, I know. I come on speaking what I know well, what I've studied before this became an issue. If you've been following me, you would have heard me say 5 years ago that America should nuke China now. Completely unexpected attack, and they probably will not be able to react, and we can destroy them for all time. We don't have to destroy them completely, and you cannot wipe the Chinese people from the earth, for they have used the force of numbers to create a Chinatown in every country that matters. There may be just a few places they don't have a Chinatown, like maybe Israel and maybe a few other places, but pretty much they've utilized the force of numbers very effectively. You find the Chinese in the Caribbean, you find them in sub-Saharan Africa, you find them in Europe, you find them in North America, and everywhere that they go, they are the merchant class, and they speak the language of the land effectively. And they stick together, and they have Chinese school. Every Saturday they'll go, they'll learn language, they'll learn history, they'll learn the things that link them together. So I remind you, shout out to the Zionists, shout out to the Chinese. It is not upon me to hate them. It is upon me to align with that group that favors me, but also to be honest and acknowledging and giving respect where respect is due. You heard me? The Zionists are doing a wonderful job. The Chinese are doing a wonderful job. Don't be mad at them. Be mad at yourself for what is going on with you. And if you don't have a group that you are a part of and you identify with that's going to take care of you, use a fool. That's why we have the assassin. And shout out to the saints out here in Slovenia. You dig? We have a global movement. And I truly believe that a global movement that is inclusive of all of God's creations, man, woman, every color, creed, race, religion, or no religion, that is something that cannot be defeated. Come on now. Anyways, let's get back after it. Shout out to Justino, the very first one. Justino came back with a triple baller alert. That puts him at a quadruple baller alert. You dig? First thing he said was, peace of the saints, looking forward to the live. I've been doing well with the stocks, and I just ordered some inventory for a product-based business. Very good. Congratulations. He writes, I can't wait to put to use all the lessons I've been stacking up. Thank you for your time and effort as always. Indeed. And I appreciate all of the, as we say within this thing of ours, show love to those who show love to you. So I appreciate Justino, good brother I had the pleasure of meeting. He writes, tomahawk steak on me, no sparkling water. Bro, I'm trying to tell you, babe. Shout out to my Europeans, man. I still love y'all, but y'all be tripping, man. I can't go hang out in Europe and have a proper meal without you guys offering me some sparkling water. And then I'm trying to sit outside to enjoy fresh air. And you boys keep smoking bing bings left and right, sitting in skinny jeans. Come on now. Y'all got to chill with that.